and welcome to today's Amicus Attorney 3 Training Thursday. I have with me here today trainer Darren Juby, and he will be taking us through quick tips for contact management. As always, if you have any questions, please put them in the sidebar under questions, and we will get to them at the end if we have time. Without further ado, I will turn it over to Darren, and he'll take you through some quick tips.
Thank you very much, Amanda. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this week's Amicus Next Free Training Thursdays webinar. So as Amanda said, this week we're going to be focusing on contact management within Amicus Attorney, and we're going to provide you all with some quick tips and best practices. So just keep in mind, of course, this is a very streamlined version of the normal training session that I would provide on contact management. So there will be some things we gloss over and some things we skip entirely, obviously, to make sure that we fit into the time restraints that we have. So without further ado, let's talk about today's agenda. So during today's session, we're going to cover the following items as they pertain to contact management within Amicus Attorney. We'll talk about the people module itself. We'll talk about adding a new contact. We'll talk about editing basic information for a contact. We'll briefly talk about how to look up people within Amicus Attorney, and we'll also cover at the end searching for possible conflicts of interest. So we got a lot of information to cover here. We're going to do so at a very high level to ensure that we can get through it all as we stated. So without further ado, let's get started. So first things first, we were talking about the people module. So as you'll see on my screen here, on the navigation list over here on the left in the control panel, I'm going to click on the people module. And so you'll see that I'm now in the people index of my Amicus Attorney. So just a brief summary of the people module itself. This is where an Amicus Attorney within Amicus Attorney, I should say, is where all the information about your people is stored. This would be your contacts and your clients, for lack of a better way of putting it. And this is where you keep the people that you want to keep in touch with, essentially. As with other modules within Amicus Attorney, information does accumulate here in the people module, either by you entering it or by Amicus collecting it as you work. So for example, a people record would be automatically created when you fill in the details of a new person or a contact from the file details dialog. So if we're creating a new file and we didn't already have the contact there, we could create it from there, for instance, and of course that contact would then show up here in our people module. If we need to keep in touch with someone on a regular basis, we can easily do so simply by opening up the contacts people details here. And as you can see, we do have the last contacted section, so it will tell us when we last were in touch with that person, and we can set these reminders to keep us in touch with this particular person. And of course, by checking that off, I can then input how many days I want before that reminder shows up. So I could put 3 days, for instance. Why that's not typing in for me, I'm not sure, but right now my keyboard just doesn't seem to be functioning properly. But as you can see, I can highlight that field. I could remove what's in there, and I could put in something of my own choosing. Again, I'm not sure. Oh, there we go. So now it's coming in. So I could say, remind me to keep in touch with this person every 1 day. And every day I'd get a reminder to keep in touch with Mr. Costanza. So I'm just going to close that. I don't want to save those particular changes right now. But as well, while we're talking about the people module itself here, just a couple of other things that I want to kind of gloss over. So we can sort here in the people module. So we can sort our contacts by the name field here, as you can see. We could sort by company name, phone number, group, and so forth. We can also put our contacts into groups. And as such, we could then filter here in the people module. So instead of seeing all of our contacts, especially if we have a lot to go through, we could simply select this filter over here. And I could select one of the groups. In this case, I've selected the group of clients. And so as you can see now, here in my people module, it's only showing me any of the contacts that are a part of that particular group. As you can see here, they are part of my clients group. To easily go back, I would simply toggle back to there, and I would see all of my contacts as I've asked it to filter based on any group. So it wouldn't matter what group these particular contacts are in, we will see them here. As well, just something to mention here, the people module is comprised of both our contacts, as you can see here, but we also have the firm directory option here, so I could see all of my firm members as well. Now, just keep in mind as well, when we look at the actual people details of a firm member, so for instance, I've just opened up my colleague Perry Mason here, you'll see that compared to with what we see on a normal contact, there's not nearly as much information available to us here in the actual firm member people details, and that is by design. So we'll just go back to showing contacts here, and as well, depending upon the security profile that your Amicus administrator has applied to you, you may indeed have the options here that you see on my screen, where I could view my contacts, or I could toggle and show firm contacts, and this would show me any contacts within our database, regardless of whether I'm assigned to them or not. If I'm simply viewing my contacts, then I'm only seeing the contacts that I am in particular an assigned firm member on. Now, of course, I mentioned earlier, but I'm just going to open up here again. This is what we call the People Details screen, or the People Details dialog. Within here, we're going to see information such as the contact's name, their company name, their address information, any phone numbers, email addresses, and web addresses, as well as any related information will all be found in here. So for instance, if this contact's on any files, I could go to the files, Brad over here, and you'll see that it's listing the files that this particular contact is assigned to. If they're related to any people, for instance, then those relationships would be shown here, and so forth. Now as well, when we create our contacts initially, we can designate them as either an individual or a company. This can only be designated at the time of creation. So let me just quickly go into a display of that. So if we were to create a brand new contact here, you can see I've got the option to create it as an individual or as a company. Now if I select the company option, you'll see that all I have to input is the company name itself. Whereas if I'm selecting or creating an individual, then I can input the first, middle, and last names. And as well, as you can see here down at the bottom of the new contact window, a duplicate check will be run against the above information to ensure data consistency. This happens by default when I click on the next button if I was to input a new contact here. I can also base my contact on a existing contact. So in this case, if I wanted to create a family member for George Costanza, a new contact for perhaps his father or mother, then I could simply say based on the currently selected contact, especially if they live at the same address, that would pull all that information over for me, and really all I have to then put in is the actual name of the contact. As well, if we have a company, for instance, Vandelay Industries here, for instance, you will see that I've got the company name here. There's the company's address information and their phone number, and there is an email address for the company as well. So if I was to create a new contact, in this case, Art Vandelay is the president and CEO of Vandelay Industries. And rather than me going through and inputting all of his information, what I can do, if I go to basics here, so if I select his company, for instance, you'll see by me doing that, instead of typing it in, I've selected the company, the actual contact record for the company here. I can then press this links button. And as you can see, what it's doing is it's pulling the information from the actual contact details for the company. So I can copy this information over by simply checking the items here. And if I say OK, you will see that it has now inherited that information here. So if I was to do a save and close on that, and then let me just reopen Art Vandelay's people details card here. As you can see, it's inherited all that information. One of the reasons I wanted to show you guys this is because, for simplicity's sake, if I needed to make an edit to this information, and let's say that we've got a bunch of contacts that work for Vandelay Industries, so they've all inherited this information, and I needed to change something like the address, what I could do is simply go into the Vandelay Industries contact card, edit the address information. So let's say that they've moved. So we'll say that they have moved to West 53rd Street. So let me edit that information here accordingly. I will say save. At least I thought I edited that information. Okay, so it is saved this time, so you'll see that it has indeed updated here on the company's contact card. So let me now open up Art Vandelay here, and you will see that that change has been reflected here as well. So if we had a bunch of contacts that all were linked to that Vandelay Industries contact, you'll see where I was easily able to update one or more contacts by simply updating the information there on the company card. Now, some other things I want to briefly talk about here in the people module as well is when we're talking about sharing information with other firm members. So let's say that we were all of our firm members are assigned to a particular contact. If one individual in our firm makes any changes to the details of a people record, if we're all assigned to it, the minute that that information has been saved, it's reflected in our office. So if one of my colleagues, Perry Mason, for instance, made a change to George Costanza's contact information, then the next time I open George Costanza's contact card here, I would see that information updated accordingly. Now, we briefly talked about adding a new contact. I'm sure most of you are familiar with adding a new contact as well, but one of the things I wanted to talk about is adding one based on an existing record. So in a situation such as I have Roberta Boop here, and Roberta Boop has a daughter named Betty. So let's say that I wanted to add a new contact for her daughter Betty. Rather than me creating a brand new contact and I have to worry about refilling all this information in, what I can do is I've already got Roberta selected here, so I could go and say new contact, or I could indeed right click here and say new or new with same information. But what I want to do is just go through the regular workflow, or I could also go up here to file and say new and select new contact from there. I'm just going to go here. That contact is selected. I'm going to select the new option and say new contact, and we'll leave the option as based on the currently selected contact. So in this case, I'm going to put in Betty. Boop. As you can see here, I didn't have any conflicts come up. So from here, I can proceed to create new based on Roberta Boop, but I can also select this option to define the relationship. This is a very key option, and it might not always come into play for every scenario, but in this case, because it is the daughter of Roberta that I'm creating a contact for, I do want to define that relationship. So I'm going to say next. And as you can see, the next screen here, because I've checked off that option, is asking me to select the relationship of Betty to Roberta. In this case, I would select child. And now you see here we've got the reciprocal relationship option. So from here, I'm being asked to select the relationship of Roberta in regards to Betty. So in this case, I will select parent, say next on that. And now it's asking me what communication information I want to bring over. Well, they live in the same home, so I will bring over the home address and the home phone number here as well. If I click finish on that, as you can see, there is the contact card for Betty Boop, and you will see that it has inherited all of that information just like that. I didn't have to input anything extra. It did it all for me. And as well, I want to quickly show you the related people section here now, because in this case, we actually have a relationship to show. So as you can see, there it's showing the parent, Roberta Boop. I want to say save and close on that. And if I go to Roberta, I want to look at her related people. You'll see that Betty also shows up on hers as a child. So by making that setting on the one contact card, you'll see that that has been reflected on both Roberta as the mother and Betty as the daughter. And I didn't have to do anything extra really to make that happen. Now, of course, if we want to edit any basic information on a contact, very easy for us to do so. We could simply open up the contact. So let's open up their people details here. And if I want to make any edits, I could simply click on the edit button here. I could edit the company information, the position information, salutation. I could also either edit the communication or address details, or I can add some new information here. So in this case, Roberta doesn't have an email address, so let's put that in here. rboop@rogers.ca. And you can see just by tabbing, I was able to move through the fields, and when I got to the communication label name, what I did is I just hit the H key on my keyboard because that's the first letter of the home designation or the home label in that scenario, and it selected it for me, and then I tabbed over and I even used my space bar to check that box there. Of course, I could have simply checked in here with my mouse, but instead, like I said, I used the space bar to check that off, and if I'm done, I just click the tab key to get out of there, and as you can see, that row has now been added. I can say save on that. And as you can see, there's Roberta's email address now showing up on the contact card. If I wanted to change anything else, if I wanted to look at the files and say, oh, let's add Roberta to a file, I could simply click the add button here, and I could select an existing file, or if I didn't have one, I could click the new option. Now, we're not really going into too much detail on the file side of things, so again, I really just wanted to show you that side of things. Here we can see the firm members that are assigned to this particular contact, and again, I could easily add or remove firm members to this contact by simply clicking on the add button. I could select Perry Mason. He's there now, or I could select him and say remove, and as you can see, very quickly he has been removed from that contact so that only I am assigned to Roberta in this case. Could add Roberta to a group simply by going here and clicking the add button, and I could add her to any one of these existing groups. And of course, if there's something that I want there but don't see it there, I could simply talk to my Amicus administrator and we could have additional groups added accordingly. Related people, of course, we are already seeing that relationship there, but if we had a contact card for the father or the husband in this case of the relationship as well, I could simply go in here, select the appropriate contact, and then define the relationship accordingly like we did earlier. And of course, if we want to easily identify whether a contact is indeed an individual or a company, very easy to do so. You could simply open up the contact card. So let's open up just a regular contact to begin with. So we'll open up Art Vandelay. And if I go to the edit option here, you will see as soon as the edit person dialog comes up, you'll see up here at the top, it's telling me this person is an individual. And I say cancel on that. And I'm going to open up Vandelay Industries here. And let me do the same thing here. I know that this is a company card, but if it was somebody else that was coming in and didn't know for sure, they could easily come in here, click that edit button, and as you can see in this edit people dialog, that we've got this contact is a company. So just looking at the time here, folks, I just moving along quickly because I want to show you guys how to look people up, and then we'll quickly cover over conflict of interest searches as well. So let me just save and close on that. Let me just sort that out. So if I'm wanting to look up contacts in my people index, I can do so in a number of ways. I could click here and simply start typing the name of the person I'm looking for. So you'll see I just typed in the first 3 letters of Mr. Costanza's last name, and it automatically moved me to that contact. But I could also go up here to the quick find, and I could do a search. So let me see. I want to do a search for Costanza again. As you can see, I have the options here for what fields I want to search through. In this case, I'm going to leave it as full name. But I can also designate, do I want all my contacts, or do I want to search through the firm contacts? Or do I only want to search through the people that is already being shown in my people index right now? In this case, I'm going to just leave it as all my people, and let's say OK. And as you can see, up comes George Costanza. Let me just toggle it back to my contacts. Now, I could also, if I went to a file, again, I just want to quickly show that we could open up a file details here. And as you can see here, I'm looking at the people on the file right now. You'll see there's George Costanza. He is bolded, so he is the primary client on this particular file. But I can also easily show the firm members on this file, or I could say show all, or I could toggle and show based on a role. Now let me just quickly go back to the people module. And as well, I just want to show you one other thing we could do here. is I could go here, and I could do a quick find from here, but I can also do a search from here. And here, I can do either a basic or an advanced search. And of course, based on what I've selected, I then have a drop down to select what type of item I want to search for. So regardless of whether I've picked advanced or basic, in this case, I want to search through contacts. And in this case, let's search for boop. And again, I could say what fields I want to search through. So as you can see, there are the results of my search. I have Roberta Boop and Betty Boop showing up here as well. And now one other thing I wanted to briefly touch upon here. I'm looking at the time and seeing that we are down to the last 10 minutes or so here. So the last thing I want to talk about quickly is a conflict of interest search. So within the people index itself, as you can see, I'm already here. I can go to the actions menu and select check conflicts. Now I have two types of searches that I can do here, a basic search or an advanced search. The basic search allows me to search on the full name, the company name, street address, and main note fields in a contact or a firm member's record, and also shows related people to that particular contact. If I was to do an advanced search, as you can see, I get a few more options down here. I can still do the same type of search I was doing for the basic, but I've also got the option to select fields for contacts, files, time entries, events, documents, communications, and or note records, and optionally, this will show related people as well. So if I wanted to search for more than one name in here, I would simply separate it by a semicolon. So let's say I want to search for Costanza and Vandelay. Let's just do a simple check now, and as you can see, the results come up here. And you can see that I have my contacts showing up here. There's George Costanza's. And it's showing that it was a multiple finds right there. It matched on the name field, also matched on the company name. And then I've got the contact for Vandelay Industries, and I've got the contact for Art Vandelay as well. Now, right now, this is the search results window. So this is the dialog here, and basically all the information that's being shown here, you'll see this is the type that it is, the name or title, the date, the match found in which fields, the comments, if there was any, and if there was a conflict with anything here. And as well, if I wanted to simply select one of these items, I could double click on it from here, and as you can see, it opens up George Costanza's contact card for me here. If I do this one, it's the Vandelay Industries, and in this case, this will be Art Vandelay. So as you can see, I can very easily get to this information from the results screen once I've pulled that information up. And then if I had to make any changes, things along those lines, then I would be able to do so. Now as well, just something to mention about the comments field here. Sometimes this will include names of people, and sometimes it will have something in here such as C, and then it might have a name there. So if you're not assigned to the person that it's matched upon in the results, so if I was not assigned to George Costanza or Art Vandelay, for instance, then it might show me here who is the actual assigned firm member on that, so that I could go speak to them and either get that contact assigned to me or ask them to make changes accordingly, whatever the case may be. It may also show me that this person might be related to somebody else, or it might show me that it's related to a file and whatnot. And as well, the conflict with column, like I said, this just gives the search name for where this match was found, and if there is any potential conflicts in there, it would show that. Now as well, if desired, you may associate the report here to an Amicus file. You can simply print this report out if you wanted to, and then have something physical to work off of if you had to go through and work through anything. If you had a lot of results, for instance, you may want to print that results list off, and if you're anything like me, you'd kind of cross one off as you're going through the list. I mean, that is a bit old-fashioned, but in some cases that works really well as well. So Amicus Attorney gives you the opportunity to either view the things on screen and work with them that way, or like I said, print out a physical list and work through it that way as well. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is a very quick overview of contact management within Amicus Attorney. We, like I said, we did gloss over quite a few items here. There's much more that we could have covered if we had more time, but in this case, I really wanted to do a high-level review of the contact management side of things and try to give you guys a few tips and things along the way. Now, if there's anybody has any questions or anything, please do feel free to submit them through the questions field there and include your email address. That way, if we don't have time to answer them here in the last 5 minutes or so of this session, we could follow up with you accordingly. It doesn't look like we have any questions coming up, but by all means, if anybody has any that they think of later on, please do submit them to us, and we would be happy to answer those accordingly. You can always reach us directly at training@abacusnext.com, and just make sure you preface in the subject heading that you might have a question about Amicus Attorney. If it was something about Abacus Law, I would suggest, put in the subject heading that you have a question about Abacus Law or one of our other products, such as Hot Docs or Results or anything along those lines. But in this case, obviously, this was an Amicus Attorney-centric presentation. So as such, if you do have any questions about Amicus Attorney in regards to what we covered today regarding contact management or anything in general, please do feel free to send an email to training@abacusnext.com. And of course, we would be very happy to field those questions for you and get you the information that you seek.
Thank you, Darren, and thank you to everyone for attending. Have a great day.
Thanks, Amanda. You too, and everybody else, please have a wonderful day as well.